Hello everyone, welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name is Gulveg, and today we're going to be taking a look at this very potent full moon / lunar eclipse in Libra. So if this is your first time joining us, what we do is we take a look at the stars above and the tarot below, and we take a look to see how best we can utilize these lunar events on the new moon and the full moon for our best and highest good. So this particular full moon is at 5 degrees in Libra, and the sun is opposing it at 5 degrees in Aries. Now, that's how every full moon is. We have the moon on one side and you have the sun on the other. The sun is shining its light on the moon, and that's what creates the full moon. And this particular opposition is very interesting because it very much repeats a lot of the themes that have come up over and over again over, quite frankly, the last few years. We keep revisiting this theme of me versus we. Like, what is the boundaries, the rights of the individual versus what are the rights and the boundaries of the community? How do we reconcile that? How do we create a meeting of the middle where everybody gets taken care of, where there's reciprocity? And this eclipse full moon is going to really be a milestone with all of that. So in addition to Aries being the sovereign self and Libra being more focused on diplomacy and the community and, keeping the peace, so to speak, we also have both the sun and the moon that's in a harmonious alignment with Pluto, which is at 1 degree in Aquarius. Now, Pluto just transited into Aquarius, and it is the planet of change. It's the planet of death and rebirth. It's associated with the underworld and our subconscious. And when it shifts, it creates, usually, it's known as a generational planet, meaning that it defines a generation. So when it shifts a sign, it's a really big deal. And so with it being at 1 degree in Aquarius, and Aquarius being associated with the planet Uranus, which is the planet, and the sun, and Aquarius is also associated with this, these themes are associated with change. They're associated with revolution. Also, Aquarius is associated with technology, learning, knowledge, new perspectives, new ways of doing things, innovation. So even though it's associated with upheaval, and sometimes that can show up in an uncomfortable way, it's also a very necessary, and it can be a very beneficial type of energy. So also with the sun being in Aries, sovereign self, moon in Libra, which is about the community, we also have this opposition between the sun, the south node and the north node being in Libra and Aries as well. The north node is what we're moving towards. It is associated with purpose and mission. South node is more of our comfort zone. It's where we've been, and it usually is associated with, at least in a birth chart, what it is that natural skill sets or aptitudes that we are born with, or that will be easy for us to pick up. And so we have the north node, which is where we're going, the south node, which is where we've been. And with that also being Aries and Libra being the sun and the moon, and we have a eclipse that is no more than, it's less than a week from the spring equinox, which is the first day of spring, new beginnings. We have a very powerful portal of being able to up-level our relationships, first and foremost with ourselves. And then once we have this understanding, once we've integrated what that new relationship is with ourselves, then it will up-level our relationships with everyone and everything around us. So if I were to distill this equinox eclipse, full moon in Libra, if I were to distill all of this into one sentence, it would just simply be all love starts with self-love. That's really distilling it all down. Now we're going to go into a few more little tidbits here, some more details on this, but really that is the bottom line. All love starts with self-love. A lot of the more shadowy things that are associated with signs that are more community driven, especially like Libra, is like the disease to please, codependency, enabling, sacrificing our own voice, sacrificing our own expression, our own truth, in order to placate. I'm not even going to say to keep the peace, because peace is not the same as placation. Peace, a lack of conflict does not mean that we have peace. We can have a lack of conflict in a relationship and completely have a deficit of intimacy. We can have a lack of honesty and transparency. That is not peace. That is simply a lack of conflict. And this eclipse is definitely bringing this awareness of up-leveling our definition of what is peace. Because if you're not feeling that there is a cohesion, a coherence between the kind of relationships that you want, or who it is that you are authentically, and how people understand you or how you express yourself, if you feel that there's a lack of coherence between the kind of relationships that you want and the relationships that you actually have, then there's probably some very big opportunities with this lunar eclipse to take a look and see if there is a way that you might be misrepresenting yourself, either overtly or maybe even just subtly. These typically are things that we may have picked up that are just coping mechanisms, ways that we learned how to survive when we were younger. Some examples might be, these kind of things might have happened because we were bullied as a kid, or because we were the oddball, we were perhaps unpopular or shy. Perhaps we had parents that maybe had narcissistic behaviors, or we had guardians and parents that were overbearing and didn't really allow us to have our own opinions or expressions if they were in opposition to how they feel. So these are all ways in which we may have been taught at an early age to abandon ourselves. And now it's time to come home to ourselves. It's time to get really real with who we are, what it is that we want, what's important to us, what our values are, and respectfully give voice to those things in a way that reteaches people how to treat us. So along with the sun and the moon and being in this harmonious alignment with Pluto, Pluto is giving a death and rebirth to how we relate to ourselves and others. We also have Venus at 16 degrees and Saturn at 12 degrees in Pisces. These two are conjunct. And then we have Mars at 1 degree in Pisces. So even though Mars is not conjunct Venus and Saturn, what's important about that is that Saturn is right smack in between Venus and Mars, and they're all in the same sign. So Pisces is about spiritual connection. Pisces is about imagination. And I look at Pisces, one of its gifts, as being able to take a look at the big picture and be able to imagine the possibilities. I do feel that a lot of Pisces have that gift. And so we have Venus, which is considered to be the sacred feminine. It's associated with wealth and beauty and luck. And then we also have Mars, which is associated with the sacred masculine. It's associated with gusto and charisma, energy, vitality, passion. Also in its shadow form, it can be associated with war and being overly aggressive. And then in between these two, you have Saturn. And Saturn is the planet that's associated with karma, with time-bound consciousness, tradition, and institutions, and kind of keeping the status quo. It's what grounds us and keeps us like very on course. And so Saturn is right in between Mars and Venus. And these two planets represent our feminine and masculine sides. So here we have Saturn, who feels like it's almost like playing a referee between these two. And so if you have an intimate relationship right now, it's very likely that that relationship is going to go through some sort of change. And it's not bad. It means that you can use this to make sure that that relationship just becomes more honest, more authentic. And sometimes navigating conflict is the very thing that needs to happen in order for true peace to take place. And I have some tips on perhaps how we can navigate, if the conflict does arise, how we can navigate that conflict in a way that will produce positive results versus tearing people down. Because it could go that way if we don't know how to voice our opinions in a respectful way, if we lack the proper communication skills, or if we just go into being triggered and going into coming from a place that's really traumatized. So Saturn is kind of playing this referee, and it's changing. It has the ability to change and up-level the karma of our relationships. It has the ability to redirect the karma that we even have with ourselves, the beliefs of how we have about ourselves. So how capable we are, how smart we are, what is available to us, how comfortable we are in asking for help or delegating certain duties. Like, all of these things are things that may come up to a head that we will be asked to renegotiate within ourselves, as well as renegotiate with those who are around us. It truly is just an amazing opportunity for self-development. And the thing too is like, I'm just going to give you a little disclaimer that this work here that I'm describing, like, this has been stewing. This has been in the pot for like the last few years, and it's had milestones over the last few years. And if you take a look at the videos that I've done over the last few years, you'll see that this theme has come up quite a bit over the last few years. And so this theme, it's not going away. And in fact, this lunar eclipse is just setting the stage for the solar eclipse that's coming up on April 8th. And that is going to actually be a much bigger deal than this lunar eclipse. This is preparing us for the April 8th solar eclipse / new moon. And when that video comes out in a couple weeks, we're going to take a look, and that's going to be a pretty in-depth look on this new chapter, because things aren't going to stay the same. And if we're clinging to what was, or we're really digging on our heels and we say we want it my way or the highway, or we are not willing to be courageous enough to let our needs be known and to speak our truth and to have firm boundaries and to say yes when we mean yes and no when we mean no, because that does take a lot of courage for those of us who are not comfortable with that. If either one of those extremes are the case, then we're going to make our lives a lot more difficult. So we might as well just go with the flow, because this is the opportunity where the universe is literally opening the door and putting out the red carpet, saying, if you want to maximize your potential, if you want to be the best version that you can be, here's how you heal. Here's how you integrate. This is what needs to be done. So let's not scoff at, even though it's hard, let's not scoff at that opportunity just because it's hard. That is kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So it really is an amazing opportunity, even though there might be some challenges, some growing pains, if you will, in order to get to the other side of this. So some of the things that I might recommend that will be very helpful in navigating any conflict that might come up as a result of all of the shift and the changes that are happening is, number one, when we communicate, let's focus on behaviors and not the meaning that we assign to behaviors. That is I work quite a bit actually with relationships. So I've worked a lot, and especially the last couple of years, with couples. And one of the big things that comes up is that folks will make meaning out of a behavior that is based on their own perspective and what kind of meaning they would have if they were acting that way. And it may not actually be a true representation of what the partner actually is trying to say or how the partner actually feels. So asking questions and clarifying on what certain behaviors that people may be doing that is just not okay might be very helpful, instead of just going into, well, like for example, if somebody is giving you kind of the cold shoulder, it would be very easy to just assume that they're mad at you, that they're angry with you. Like, oh, well, why are you so pissed off at me? That may not be the case. It may not be that they're actually mad at you. Maybe they're not feeling well. Maybe they've had a really bad day. Maybe they got some really bad news and they just haven't talked about it yet. So asking questions before jumping to assumptions and reflecting on behaviors versus meaning that we assign to behaviors can be very helpful. So for example, instead of saying, why are you so angry with me? You could say, I can tell that you're a little offish right now. It seems like that you're a little offish right now. What's going on? Are you okay? That is an invitation to have a conversation versus an accusation. And that is a way that we can start opening the door to have negotiations and to really get some clarity on what's going on with the folks around us, so that we can be honest too. So that's one thing that I would definitely recommend, is asking more questions, making less statements, asking for clarification, and to, if there are behaviors or actions that are really, that don't feel good, focus on expressing what behaviors are coming up versus assigning a meaning to those behaviors and then making an accusation that a person is meaning something that they may or may not be meaning. So that's one thing. So there is a big opportunity here to clear the air. There probably will be, for a lot of us, some conversations that may not necessarily be the most lighthearted, but they may be necessary. And after we have them, we're going to feel like we just cleared the air, even if they were difficult. Like, this is such a purifying, energetic event where it's like we have the opportunity to do things that might feel a little uncomfortable, but after we do so, it's going to be like, whew, just shake it off. It's gonna feel so good. It's going to feel so good. At the end of the day, it will. At first it may not, but once we get to the other side of it, it's going to feel a lot better. So there might be a lot of aha moments, and we are being invited to let go of self-doubt. We might have some aha moments on how certain toxic relationships may be very detrimental to our self-esteem, and perhaps we've had past relationships that have imposed certain belief systems on ourselves. These are things that we might see for the first time in a whole different light and a whole different type of clarity. And then by the time April 8 comes up and we have the solar eclipse, that's just going to take it to a whole new level. And I'll talk about that when that time comes. So let's take a look at the cards and let's get some additional info on what else do we need to know about this lunar eclipse in Libra, full moon, on March 25th, 2024. How can we make the best of it? How can we make the most of this? And I would recommend, for those of you who are tuning in, set the intention that whatever part of this reading here that really resonates with you, that's really important for you, is going to be highlighted, where you're just like, oh, I know that part of that message, that one definitely applies to my situation. That can be really helpful for these generalized kind of readings. How the best of this. The one thing too that I wanted to bring up that is that this is a prelumbral eclipse, which means that it is more faint, and it's just in the outer part of the Earth's shadow. So energetically, what that means is this particular lunar eclipse is going to be a little bit more gentle. And so I just wanted to bring that up, just simply because, you know, all eclipses, or I shouldn't say all, but a lot of them, they do have a little bit of like they have a little bit of a rub a lot of times, because they initiate change, and change for most of us isn't exactly the most comfortable thing. So know that even though there is a lot of pieces about this that are could be difficult, that there's almost like this softness around it as well, that there's like a energy where there will be something that you can use to soothe anything, like a salve on any kind of anything that comes up that makes you feel raw. So yeah. All right, so the very first one that comes up, this is very interesting, is the Justice card reversed. And I'm going to bring up the second card too at the same time, because I'm really thinking that there's a big connection here, next to the Two of Swords. Now, the Justice card reversed is, you know, pretty much what it seems. It's the lack of justice. It is a lack of transparency, honesty, truth. It's a lack of balance. And so, and this is being caused by some sort of indecision. And this could be, this can even be an indecision of, you know, that conversation that you want to have with your significant other, or coming forward to your, you know, whoever the authority is at work, your boss, and letting them know that there are some inappropriate behavior, or that there are boundaries that are being crossed, or you're wanting to have just any kind of conversation where you're feeling the pull to change something about how you're relating, or how others are relating to you, because you're feeling the desire to have those relationships reflect more of what it is that you truly want, you truly need, and you're wanting those relationships to support your authenticity, and thus stepping into those relationships in a whole, like, up-leveled, authentic way, where how you feel and what it is that you want and need is truly being reflected in how you're being treated. And the crossroads, the decision, is that we have to speak this out. We have to speak and bring voice to the injustice. We have to bring voice to the imbalance in order to heal it. And that this imbalance absolutely is part of our community. The Ten of Pentacles is about our community. It's about family and what it is that we've inherited. And when it's upside down, it's a lack of reciprocity. When it's right side up, it means it's generosity. Everybody's getting taken care of. Everybody's, it's give and give alike. Like it's beautiful. But when it's reversed, it means that there are givers and there are probably takers. And usually that's what this card a lot of times comes up as, or that someone is less than generous and is perhaps kind of siphoning all of the energy out of the group. And that person needs to be held accountable. So there is some group dynamics that are causing a lack of justice, and we're at a crossroads where this is a really difficult decision to bring voice to that. And the thing that's coming up to my mind too is that sometimes in order to bring voice to it, we have to risk potentially being the unpopular one. The tattletale. But there's a difference between being a tattletale and being a people pleaser and somebody who enables and placates toxic behavior. And so if that feels more of like what is going on, then just cross that crossroads, make the decision. And it's very interesting here too, because it almost looks like there's a lunar eclipse in the background of this card. This crossroads, this indecision, this like trying to balance internally, like, oh, like, should I say something? Should I not say something? Should I change this relationship? Should I put myself out there in this way? Like this, you know, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth internally causes anxiety and nightmares. So, you know, it really comes down to, and then the last two cards are the resolution, like, how, okay, with all these things being as they are, what do we do about it? The Nine of Pentacles, the hawk that she has there, it represents her spirit. It's like kind of almost like the law of attraction, where you like send out that which your heart desires. The hawk is hunting down, spirit is hunting down that which your heart truly desires. And in order to direct your consciousness in that way to hone in on what is really helpful, it's going to require some emotional mastery. So the Queen of Cups reverse is saying that despite this upheaval that we might be feeling internally, that really this is about us getting really true on what it is that we really want and just laser-like focus. Something that I found to be true in my own life, because I have healed from codependent tendencies and you know, enabling and things of that nature, is when you speak your truth and you tell people what is non-negotiable for you and what is okay and what is not okay, then the relationships that are truly supportive of you and the ones that are helpful are the ones that will actually be pulled in closer. And then the ones that are not helpful, or the ones that are not willing to respect your boundaries, the ones that are not going to be supportive of of what it is that you need as an individual, your authenticity, those are going to be the relationships that either get pushed out to arm's length and you create space, or they're the ones that get released completely. And that is a good thing, because having a discernment, having a hedge, if you will, between the relationships that are supportive and to keep those in closer, because those are the relationships that are truly a good investment of your time, space, and energy, and keeping the relationships that aren't as helpful at a distance, that is going to conserve your energy. It's going to conserve your mental space. It's going to be healthier for you physically. And at the end of the day, like, we're siphoning out the gold, right? Like we're siphoning out the relationships that are golden, and we're allowing the ones that aren't to dissipate. And that can be easier said and then done. And so, yes, there are challenges that some hard work that might have to come to fruition on this one, but it really truly will be worth it. And if you are willing to be true to you, then your relationships are going to be more true to you as well. So thank you so much for joining me here. I know that this is a little bit of a mixed bag of a reading. Like, I wish I could just be like, oh, this is gonna be so great, like, woohoo, put on your party hat. You know, like, I think I'd rather be real about, like, yeah, this is what's going on, and you know what, it's gonna be okay. It's going to be okay. I also want to just take a shout out to those of you who are in my inner circle email list. The last new moon, I had a terrible cold, which is why I missed my video, and I sent out an email letting all of you know why. And I just want to say thank you so much for all of the heartfelt, beautiful messages that you guys sent me in return, just with well wishes and with understanding that it wasn't in anybody's best and highest good for me to show up when I was in that state. So thank you so much for all of your support and all the love. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here in a couple weeks, because this solar eclipse, don't miss this one, because the next one, it's a doozy. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.